Hello and welcome to Cannamantv. My name is Connor McLeod, and in this interview I speak with the founder of Cancard, Carlys Barton. Here we discuss what Cancard is and what it hopes to achieve, the details of how to register for Cancard, how Cancard differs from Carlys Amnesty, medicinal users data collection, the frustration held by the cannabis community in general, and what the future has in store for Cancard. If you'd like to support the channel, please go to our Patreon where you'll receive exclusive content and insights and help contribute towards creating a stronger platform for sharing cannabis information. So, make sure and like and subscribe, and remember to turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Now then, let's talk cannabis. So we'll just dive straight in then.
Okay.
So for people that are completely unaware of what Cancard is, could you just give a breakdown of what it is and how it emerged?
Sure. So Cancard essentially is like a medical ID, which basically identifies you as someone who should be legally accessing cannabis on prescription, but you're unable to afford it. So the argument really is that, if somebody with MS who can afford a private prescription gets a legal immunity for consuming their medicine, we shouldn't really be prosecuting somebody with the same condition just simply because they can't afford to buy the legal immunity that comes with a private prescription.
Yeah.
So it's a medical ID card. We do some thorough checks to make sure that you would be eligible for a private script. And at the moment, they are providing private scripts for so many conditions, and that list is increasing daily. So it's a really extensive list of people that could be accessing a private prescription. I don't believe that people should be criminalised for consuming cannabis in any form. But I think, the first step is to at least stop criminalising people who could walk into a private clinic tomorrow if they had an extra couple of grand a month knocking about.
Yeah. And so how does Cancard differ from Carlys Amnesty?
Well, I guess it doesn't really. So essentially my argument with Carlys Amnesty is that, we should be able to grow our medicine. And we took that argument to the CPS and the Director of Public Prosecutions. And made the argument to them that people should no longer be arrested for cultivating their own plants,
right.
which was great. And, they took it really seriously, and they've agreed to do a full, thorough legal review into the way that it's policed. That's going to start in February next year. But, it's sort of in the meantime, I think that I was getting hundreds and hundreds of messages a day from patients who were either living in fear of prosecution, so they were struggling to cope with the fear. Some people with MS weren't going out all day because they were worried about taking a vaporizer, for example.
Yeah.
But I think the fear and the issue with the stop and searches and the arrests were, it was taking its toll, and I felt that we could do something in the meantime to at least work on decriminalising possession for these people, and then we could look to fold in like a home grow option for those people once we've got agreement from the higher ups.
Right. So it says on your thing that you got passing essentially backing from MPs. How did that work? Did you essentially how many MPs did you get, and like where is the authoritative stamp essentially?
So with the MPs, we work with about, I think it's 19 MPs across all of the different parties. Right. So we've got backing from, Conservative MPs. They run a reform group. So I do a lot of work with them, advising them on things like, so for example, advising them on how rubbish our driving laws are and how the tests are highly inaccurate, and, that THC stays in your system for much longer than you're inebriated.
Yeah.
So I've been working with them on advising them for a while. So it was kind of easy to get in there. The Labour Party Drug Reform Group are also really cool. The Green Party and the Lib Dems are also on board. So getting their backing was really essential, because it means that, people in Parliament are aware of Cancard and can help with things like policy recommendations.
Yeah.
So the Conservative Party are just about to produce a report that will back Cancard as a policy recommendation in law.
Excellent.
To ensure that nobody who is vulnerable is criminalised for consuming their medicine.
That's a huge step forward. It would have been relatively ironic if the Green Party didn't go along with this.
Yeah, it would. But Caroline's cool. She's very cool. She's my local MP. I'm really lucky to have Caroline as my MP. So yeah. She's cool person to hang out with, and she very much backs the Green. So yeah, no irony there.
Yeah, no, it's certainly it's a huge step when you get those kind of channels on board, and even just pushing the fact that it's the Conservative are talking about it, but continuously pushing issues relating to cannabis just keeps it in the public spectrum, essentially, it's public arena. So is this UK wide? Is this Northern Ireland and Scotland included?
So we've got Scotland included, we've got Wales, Northern Ireland we're still working with. And it's not really for want of trying, and it's not really because they are against the idea. It's the issue with Northern Ireland has been the speed at which they operate.
Right.
So it's been, I'm like, come on, NI, can we move a little bit quicker? Because realistically, I'd really like to just drop this UK wide and get the police saying this is fine. You know, we're gonna agree to this. But I also don't want to put anybody in a position whereby they assume that the police are on board when they aren't. And I think the issue with Northern Ireland has been the speed at which we can get communication back and forth.
Right.
So at the moment, we've got some meetings happening between the UK police chiefs and the Northern Ireland police chiefs to try and speed things along. Because realistically, when this drops on the 30th, I would like to have everywhere covered and not be leaving Northern Ireland out. I think that, you know, the guys in Northern Ireland, the patients over there and the community over there, I mean, they're just my favourite. I mean, they're just bloody brilliant. You know, you guys, you know, over there have got, you know, got some absolute characters and some really beautiful people who stand up for this medicine. And I really wouldn't want to be in a position where anybody was left out. But at the moment, we're trying our best, but they are incredibly, frustratingly slow.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're on them, but yeah, we can only move as fast as they'll let us.
And regarding like conversations with the police, even in Scotland, I mean, how does that work? Are you essentially talking to the higher ups, and then is there an attempt to educate police officers on the ground?
Yeah, so in Scotland, Scotland's slightly different because in UK and Wales we have discretion, and in Scotland they have policy recommendations, which sort of act like discretion, but it's called a different thing. So you guys up there will have a slightly different way of doing things. You'll know better than anyone that Scotland is slightly more in places slightly more hard line on cannabis, particularly up north. I think we've seen some really horrific cases coming out of the Shetlands and, you know, really high up in Scotland in the Highlands. And so, you know, it's about, essentially, it was never going to work. And I think, you know, looking back on what I was trying to do with Carlys Amnesty when I was trying to work with PCCs and local forces, you know, I was quite naive in thinking that was achievable. But, you know, I think that the response there meant that we would have ended up with an even greater postcode lottery. And so the best way to go about it, and the way that I've gone about it with Cancard, is to go top down. Right. So the way that we can make change in Scotland, Wales and the UK, Northern Ireland is slightly different, but certainly for Scotland, is to have national guidance issued. And so that's coming from the very top. We have on our board one of your drugs expert witnesses who is absolutely phenomenal. He runs the expert witness network. So what they do, and you guys up there have the same, is essentially each force has a drugs expert, and they will testify for the prosecution in cases where there has been a drug charge. So they'll be like, okay, that cocaine is worth 24 grand. It's this potency. You know, they know the ins and outs of that drug. They know the ins and outs of how much it's worth, and you know where it's likely to go. So they're real experts in that part of the scene. And we have a drugs expert witness in the UK, but we also have the lead in Scotland, who is going to be training all of the drugs expert witnesses in Scotland on the ground. And because they testify for the prosecution, it's going to be interesting because they're actually now trained to testify and back the patient with Cancard. Right. So court cases are going to be interesting if they ever get that far, and I don't think they will with simple possession cases. Right. But there might be cases where there's a complicated charge. So, for example, somebody is caught with a weapon but also has cannabis, and they try and prosecute the cannabis, but they have a Cancard. So the expert witness would testify on the stand that, you know, this was THC of a strength of this amount, it was worth this amount, you know, the likelihood is they're going to sell it or whatever. But they're going to be trained to say, to explain to a jury about Cancard, about, you know, how secure it is, about the fact that they're a medicinal consumer.
Right. So, I mean, what is the maximum for consumption, for possession, I should say, when you have a Cancard?
So that's a tricky one. So we haven't really stipulated amounts per se, but what we've done is, in the police training, what we've done is educate what a typical amount would be for a medicinal consumer to be consuming. So we've taken research from the States, from Canada, from polling we've done here in the UK, to say that usually patients will, you know, I think it's 80 odd % of patients, when they are collecting their medicine, will buy an ounce at a time. Right. So they will have that sort of in their minds that, you know, if you're caught, you know, with an ounce, the likelihood is you've just collected your medicine. You know, if you're caught with like 25 pounds in a truck, you know, I think it's gonna be tricky. Yeah. But yeah. So and also, you know, we say generally that patients consume between 1 gram to 2 grams a day. You know, and that, you know, we have told them that is average, and there are cases where, you know, patients will be consuming 4 grams. Yeah. But they should sort of have, what we're trying to do is give them tools in order to be able to have something to hang their hat on and walk away. Yeah. So, for example, I was explaining to them that, you know, if I was going out to Asda, I'd probably only have 0.5 gram on me in my vape. But if I was going, you know, away for 2 weeks to a cottage somewhere, I'd probably have an ounce on me. Yeah. So it's less about sort of giving them. I can't say to you, okay, you're safe to carry 14 grams on your person all the time, because at the moment it's still an illegal drug to carry. Yeah. What we can do is, throughout the police training package that's going to be issued with Cancard, is highlight to them what the usual amounts are, so that they can only flag things when someone's being really cheeky or is, you know, blatantly got a van full of stuff that they're off to go and sell down the skate park or whatever. Yeah. So that's the way we've done it. So it's less about, you know, I can't give you amounts. You know, it's about being responsible, but also about educating the police on what is usual.
Yeah, appropriately. I think I seen a news headline recently where there was a guy in Scotland who had been stopped, and I think, I don't know, a significant quantity anyway, and he was like, I'm just stocking up for lockdown. It's, you know, it becomes difficult then, you know.
Like, how long is this lockdown going to last? You don't know.
Exactly.
Of course, officer, why I have 20 ounces in my bag.
I was on 2 wheels driving down the street, you know. But so when you said the medical documentation, so when you're actually registering for Cancard, what is the general process?
Yeah, so it's really easy. So, you know, we had what we were going to do, and I think, you know, we've sort of worked our way around this, was we were going to get the GP to testify that the patient had one of the listed conditions. Now, I have concerns around that approach, because I think that, I don't know what it's like in Scotland, maybe you'll know, but in England, if you have cannabis consumption on your medical record, that means that you aren't able to access NHS mental health services unless you've been clean, ridiculous, for 3 months. Clean for 3 months before you take it on. So you can't go to counselling, you can't access CBT, you can't access anything like that, which I think is just way outdated.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Is that the same there?
Yeah, I have no idea. I've absolutely no idea. Even the fact that they refer to it as clean, I mean,
I know.
Contributes towards homeostasis. So does clean imply your health? Is that what that means?
I'm thoroughly clean right now after my oil. So anyway, you know, we wanted an option for patients who maybe didn't want to speak to their GP about it. They didn't want it on their record. They were worried about having that conversation. So what we've done is, you know, in Scotland, and this is true in Wales and England as well, it's law that GPs have to print off your summary of care notes, without any explanation. It's a quick phone call to a receptionist, who then just prints them off and you go collect it. Right. It's usually 1 or 2 A4 bits of paper. The front page will say your name, any conditions you've been diagnosed with on there, and it's usually stamped and signed at the GP surgery just to say that they've printed it out. So it just gets uploaded to us. We have a quick look at it and we go, oh yeah, anxiety, check.
Yeah.
Then you upload your photo, we check that out, done, and then your card gets released and it gets sent out. So really it's that easy. It's just you take a quick photo of your summary, you upload it to us, you take a photo of yourself, you upload it to us. Once all of that's been checked, then your card goes out in the post.
Excellent. That sounds extremely efficient, to be perfectly honest, just for it to be in such early stages. I'm assuming you've been working on this for then, what, has it been a year, 6 months? How long have you been working on this?
I mean, I think really 18 months when you count the Amnesty work, and I suppose the Cancard sort of came out of that. So yeah, so it's been it's been a lot of graft. I mean, I'm laughing because I'm just so tired. I'm just like, oh, when will it end? But yeah, so so we're launching on the 30th. So you can go to cancard.co.uk on the 30th. You can register and upload your photo, take a quick picture of your notes, and your card will be on the way in a couple of weeks once we've got them checked. It's going to be 20 quid. And we are going to have a small pot of money for anybody who's on really low income, and that if the £20 is going to cause them, issues, then we'll have a little pot of money to give grants to people so that they can access it much cheaper. I just think, this was designed so that people who were on low income weren't criminalised. So I didn't want anyone to not be able to afford to get the card to help them. So yeah, and there's going to be an app as well, which is really cool. So we've gone tech. I mean, I'm shit at tech.
Yeah, you and me both.
I've got help from techie people who very cleverly designed the card so that you can tap it on your phone and verify it in front of police, and have access to things like a stop and search guide and legal advice and discounts for vaporizers and CBD and things like that through the app. You can also report a stop through the app. So if you come across a really lovely copper and he's, tip top and he's loving the Cancard, then you can log on and say you've had a really good experience, or I'm a really grumpy one today, or, whatever it is that, so just so that we can keep an eye on how things are progressing geographically for everybody.
For anybody that's been obviously critical of Cancard, when it comes to data collection, how are you handling data collection?
What the really cool thing is, the biggest healthcare database builders in the UK is a company called Veracity. They do things that I can't even comprehend with my brain of databases. So they do, they work with the NHS and they work with pharma companies, and really, really secure, sort of the highest end security we've got. And the guy, I contacted them for a quote, and they gave me a quote, and I was like, that is the most money I've ever seen written on a page. Database that's never going to work. But, I had a chat with the managing director, and it turns out that he has rheumatoid arthritis,
right,
and really struggles himself. And so he was sort of affected by the issues at hand. So they came on board as a partner, and they've kindly agreed to provide their service that they provide to government and, security firms at cost. Yeah. Because they believe it's such a really good sort of scheme, and they want to help. So that's really cool. So, so it's all, the security's all ISO, it's all GDPR compliant, it's locked away. The police don't have access to any of your data. They don't want it. They were said, it's going to be problematic for us to hold a database of people who are blatantly breaking the law. Yeah. We just need a way of verifying that that person is genuinely a Cancard holder, and then we're happy to walk away. So yeah, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of, critique from the community, but I think a lot of it came before they'd understood how seriously we were taking it. Yeah. And a lot of it came as we were sort of working on things, and before we'd finalised things. Yeah. So I just kept saying, guys, give us a chance, let us get up and running, and before you start ripping it to bits, because at the moment you're moaning about something that hasn't happened.
No, exactly. And the thing is, it's actually quite frustrating, because I think a lot of the moaning is a consequence of just flat frustration that it's not legalised. And I think that's what it is. Totally, everybody's in the same boat. And I think that any community or demographic of people, the cannabis community is exhausted.
They're really tired. And I get that. I totally get that. Exactly. Everybody is at their wits' end, and there's been years of false hope and crap promises, and to's and fro's with government and policing, and people are just sick of it. They're just like, this isn't going to work because because everything else hasn't worked. And I get that. I totally get that.
It's just kind of unfortunate, Carly, because you're kind of targeted in a sense because of the fact that you created Cancard. It is a step forward. It is, and that's the way you should see it. That's the way, the first time I read it, that's the way, same with Friends, it's like, this is something that's never arrived before. As you said, but glad it's been here in the first place. And the UK is draconian when it comes to cannabis. It's embarrassing, So this is just a step forward, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So it should be seen as that. I think the only frustrating thing is when you have MPs that are backing it. You're almost there, you're in the house, it's like just flick on the switch and everything's fine and we'll move it like Canada,
I think that the issue is, and the frustration even with the MPs in the Conservative Party, is that we aren't going to move while Priti Patel's in office.
Yeah.
They're the biggest blocker at the moment. As absolutely ridiculous as Boris is, and he's nobody's favourite guy, is he? I think that he would move on it. But I think that the blocker at the moment is our Home Secretary, and the MPs are pulling their hair out, and about that, because it's high time that we moved away from this hardline war on drugs that that she's that rhetoric that she's still jumping up and down about.
Yeah. When
we've got oodles of scientific evidence to say that is bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think that it will move, but I think that she needs to move on first.
I fully agree, definitely. So when just anybody that's hoping to apply, would you give any what advice would you give?
You'll be able to upload your documents on the 30th. So what will happen on the 30th is hopefully we'll get some news coverage. There'll be some really gorgeous patients doing interviews and stuff, telling their story, which is going to be amazing for the community and hopefully should see a bit more stigma dissolving.
Yeah.
So you can go on the website cancard.co.uk on the 30th, upload your documents. In the meantime, if you wanted to get ahead of the game, you could give your GP surgery receptionist a bell and just ask them to print out your summary of care notes.
Right.
And be armed with a passport photo. And that'll mean that on the 30th, you'll be able to jump straight on it. Whereas, if people are only just reading what you need on the 30th, then they might be a week or so behind while they wait for the GP to print that thing off and stuff. So that might be a good tip.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, this has been dynamite, Carly. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, mate. You're welcome.
Thanks to Carly for giving me her time, and thanks to you for sticking around until the end of the video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the content. I'll see you next time.